Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another game of Super Rugby Pacific. This one, the Fijian Drua taking on the Western Force. Now, this game is being played in Lautoka and it is absolutely pouring down at the moment. So it could be an extremely wet, extremely hard environment to get a lot of points on the board. But the Western Force coming off a victory. Same with the Fijian Drua who got themselves the win last week up against the Tars and at Golden Point. But looking through at the Fijian Drua starting lineup, it will be Hiriti Hatit alongside Tavita Ikanaveri and Masaki Donge as the front row. Masaki Vofi will be starting in at 4 with Ratu Rotui Solia as the number 5. Antonio Wanga alongside Kitioni Salawa and Ilia Whanakai Vata. They are the loose forward trio. There is no Meridiri Alangi due to an injury. Hopefully he will be back in the near future. In the back line, it is Frank Lamani with Isaiah Armstrong Ravula as the number 10. Apeli Momo, number 11. Apasalomi Vota and Osifu Masi in the midfield. Now, he has found his form recently. Masi getting himself 5 tries across 2 weekends of Super Rugby. He's definitely one to watch out for, although with the fact that he'll have to swim to get to the try line, I have to wait and see how many tries get scored. In this one, like I mentioned, Apeli Momo out on that left wing. Celestino Ravatamanda out on the right, and Eliza Drua Sisi to start at number 15. Then looking through at the Western Force, it will be Ryan Coxon at number 1, Tom Horton 2, and Santiago Marano will be starting in as the number 3. Lapeti Faifua at number 4 with Tom Franklin at 5. A lot of these guys, this is actually the first game of Super Rugby that we have called for these individual. Tim Anstey in the in the loose forward trio alongside Carlo Tazzano and also Reed Prinsep. Now, some people will know him from his time at Canterbury. Some people know his time at the Hurricanes. Now, the next journey for him playing for the Western Force. Nick White and Ben Donaldson, the 19 combo that was brought in for the Western Force in this season. Chase Tiatia out on the left wing with Hamish Stewart and Sam Spink in the midfield. Bailey Quenzel has been one of the top performers out on the wing. And Harry Potter at number 15. Now, I am honoured to get to call another Harry Potter game. The last time we called one was when he was playing for the Leicester Tigers. Now he's magically ended up in Australia. But looking through at the table, the way that it's sat at the start of the round, of course, the Crusaders, they were sitting in 12th, but after a win over the Chiefs, they now find themselves promoted up ahead of the Western Force, which is why it's so important that the Force get themselves an away win here up against the Drua, who currently still find themselves sitting inside of the top 8 after the Rebels got themselves the win over the Waratahs last night. I'll be honest, this weather is absolutely awful. Like, I know that they're not going to call the game off, but it's almost as bad as, I don't know how many of you will remember it, the Cape Town Sevens final between Samoa and New Zealand last year, I think it was, or maybe even the year prior, when the weather was that bad, the coverage cut out. Luckily, we haven't had that as of yet. But yeah, the weather's not looking too flash at all, but the teams, they will be making their way out onto the field. Of course, as a young player, you used to love going on a Saturday, diving around in the mud. This is kind of next level. Nick White, I don't think he's played many games in these conditions. New Tia was playing for the Force. Didn't know Prinsep was over there. Good pickup for them, says Joe Weber. Yeah, they've got some real good signings for this season. And, I feel like that has definitely helped the Western Force. It's taken a while, a little bit similar to the Crusaders, how they've got so many changes that it will take time to be able to adapt and work out exactly what combination works for them off the bench. They aren't looking too bad either. Max Berry has been one of the standout players in the backline for the Western Force. And then also Ollie Kalin's there and finds Leleoasa at number 21. But the two sides, oh no, they're lining up out there for the haka. Frank Lamani in his 50th game is carrying his baby out. I hope that baby knows how to swim because it is extremely wet in Lautoka at the moment. It's a bit brutal, to be honest. The kid, he looks like, well, I don't know if he's got a little smile on his face or not, but Frank Lamani certainly is experiencing a lot of rain at the moment. And that's why, but 2 tries for him throughout the season, 4 try assists. Also, we've seen 168 carrying meters, 4 defenders beaten, 4 line breaks, 6 offloads for Frank Lamani. Fijian Drua now, though, will be making their way out onto the field. Like I mentioned, the Western Force, I believe there is going to be some sort of pre-match between these two teams, which would be, it's going to be a bit brutal, to say the very least. In this rain, the players, they will get cold. They'll just want to go out there and play the best rugby that they can. and see what they can make with a bad situation. This game, honestly, the rain and the weather, the way that it is, does make it anyone's contest. And I think that that's probably the best bet for the Western Force. They don't want to be playing in dry conditions. They want to be in a game that could easily go in either side's favour. But both sides, there's already puddles on the field. This is going to be one of the worst games in terms of the wetness of the field that we have seen for Super Rugby Pacific so far. And it's a wet one, says John MC. And they chat as well, but Tavita Ikanaveri leading the Fijian Drua early on here. But yeah, not the nicest weather. I'll be honest, it's even hard to see the players, but we are going to make do with what we've got, and we'll let you know exactly what is happening throughout this game. I do not see it getting called off. I have to say, no other location in Super Rugby could you have this much rain, this much surface moisture, and still have a crowd the size that they do. And that is just down to the credit of the supporters of the Fijian Drua, the fact that they get behind their side no matter what, rain or shine, literally. And let's go, lad. Good to see you, brother. Says S. Lisa there. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing extremely well. If you're excited for this first of 4 games back to back to back, Fijian Drua yelling Tosso, of course, means go. And Donaldson's got a big smile on his face. He's absolutely loving it. We are now ready to go, ladies and gents, for this contest. Now, we did see a little bit of rain earlier on in the Fijian Drua versus Waratahs game. A couple millimetres of rain or so, I would say. It was nothing to this nature, like this is flooding kind of levels that we got at the ground, but both teams, they don't care. They want to go out there, they want to get the points on the board that they can. And kia ora, Hamish. There's Vinny, welcome in, mate. Hope you are keeping well. I have had a couple minutes delay in terms of the start of this game, but that is probably understandable with the amount of rain that is around. Thinking players will be able to slip and slide about 10 metres if they need to. But yeah, we will have to wait and see how this one goes. Like I said, anyone's game now, with the rain playing a factor as much as it will. Ben Donaldson, they were showing earlier on, he was trying to practice drop kicking. He'd drop the ball wouldn't bounce at all. It would just straight into the puddle. So even kickoffs may be a difficult part of this matchup, but the two teams, they are ready to go. So wet. There's Hanoi there. Ben Donaldson even just trying to fumble or trying to get the ball ready for a drop kick. Ended up fumbling it. He's kicked it low and it's skidding on. Well controlled by the Fijian Drua. And we are now underway with a good attack and run straight off the bat from Osefo Masi. And it is a penalty early on for the Western Force. Players leaving their feet. This game already has got a real old school vibe. Back when they used to play, whether it was raining, snowing, whether there was a hurricane, they would be out on the field. And I Hamish from Dutch Harbour, Alaska. Says Edward, welcome in, mate. You are keeping extremely well. Now, Ben Donaldson, he's decided he doesn't want to have a kick at the goal. So he is instead going to kick this one towards the corner. I feel like it's a very tricky one to know how set piece is going to go. A scrum I don't think is going to exist in this contest because you just can't get any sort of grip on the surface. Good crowd considering the weather. Like I said earlier on, the biggest crowd you can expect to see at a game in Super Rugby with a weather condition like this. But they just love their rugby and they want to watch their team succeed. They won their last game at home up against the Waratahs. They won their game prior to that up against the Crusaders at home. Now the rolling maul for the Western Force looks like it's rowing towards the try line currently 10 metres out. Working very nicely here for the Western Force as it continues to march. I've got the penalty advantage here as well here, the Western Force. It's very hard to see where the goal line is, but I believe they're closing in on it. Now they get over. Referee's looking for a grounding, and he's found one. The Western Force strike within the first 2 minutes. Those were the days. No one picked the ball up, just towed it on. Says Joe Webby. And that's the thing. I think Ben Donaldson was almost considering that as his kickoff. But at the end of the day, they have scored themselves the first try of the contest here for the Fijian Drua. We just changed our microphone. Hopefully it still sounds all right, ladies and gentlemen. Just working on that rolling maul. Unfortunately, in these type of conditions, like it's very hard to stop momentum. And I feel like the Western Force had that from the get-go there when they were walking their way forward in that rolling maul was going to be very hard to shut down. As much as I'd like the Force to get the win, I got to go for the Taurungas. Says it was there from Hanoi. One try, Tom Horton, his second of the season. First of the night now, we're going to get to see goal kicking in play. Here comes Ben Donaldson. We're already seeing the field has been slightly muddified, I think is the best way of describing it. Here comes Donaldson off the tee, and he has missed that one, which, to be honest, like, you can't blame the bloke. It's not nice out there on the field at the moment. I think we just do thunder in the background. It's going to be an interesting one, though, because I know that when there's lightning, they have to consider going off. He looks scared of tripping over. Says, not even so much tripping, just slipping. Like, it's wet enough out there on the field. Your boot can get completely submerged if you step in the wrong puddle. Going to be kicked off high. Armstrong Ravula made it look easy, to be fair. Of course, the Fijian Drua, a few of these young men would have been growing up playing in these type of conditions. When the try line is pretty much a swimming pool, and you get to dive into it when you score. Ravatamanda would have been there, done that quite a bit. Just got to make sure you hold your breath when you get tackled and you go to ground. Now Masaki Donye, only 25 metres out from the line. Armstrong Ravula going back across here for Hereti Hatit. Tackled in the midfield for the Western Force. Now Api Salome Vota, he's back at number 12. He had a decent start to his season. Unfortunately, though, for him, just went a little bit slower in that middle patch. Western Force getting over the ball, that being Ryan Coxon. And they win themselves the penalty there. First arriving man, clear lift on the ball is the call from the referee. But we've already seen quite a few turnovers for the Western Force in this contest. I think with the fact that the forwards will be a little bit slower getting to the breakdowns, that opens up a lot of opportunity for these two sides to be able to get themselves those early turnovers. But currently, as we sit, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the odds for this game, the Western Force are still $2.60 underdogs for this matchup. Now, just talking about the handling of the Fijian Drua, it actually was pretty solid overall in this one. But now line out throw, nicely claimed by the Western Force, just inside of Fijian Drua territory, put back to Donaldson, who does the up and under right into the puddles. Loose ball, Ruasisi somehow almost kept that ball in the field of play, but then knocks it on. He isn't giving it up. They wanted to take it quickly there, the Western Force, with Harry Potter, but he is not able to do so. But Ruasisi, he actually dropped that ball, but because of the moisture on the surface, stayed in the field of play. He then slipped over, tried to grab it again, and then knocked it on. So, yeah, it's a nightmare of a day to be a kicker, and it's a nightmare of a day to be a fullback, I believe. Probably the two positions, and we're about to find out if it's a nightmare to be a prop, because these guys are going to have the first scrum of the day now. If you're flattening out as a scrum forward in this regard, doesn't just have to be the front row, just anyone flattening out in the scrum, you're definitely going to make sure you got that nose blocked, or else you're getting a mouthful of water and a nose full of mud as well. And they're quite about to put this ball in. And I mean, this is an experience for the Western Force players as well. Like, they would have never played a game of rugby, I would say, in conditions like this. Well, not for a very long time anyway. But that is going to be the free kick to the Western Force. Going in a little bit too early. Masaki Donge saying it was Ryan Coxon's fault. I think that the Western Force, it looks like they are going to go for another scrum here, ladies and gentlemen. And doesn't the cameraman have a towel for the lens? So yes, annoying. The thing is, I feel like they probably do, but as soon as they wipe it, it's probably going to form again. So like this wide angle one's not too bad. I believe that's actually under the stadium roof. But in terms of those guys down on the sideline, as soon as you put any type of angle upwards, like, your lens is just completely drenched. And it's going to be a huge, I guess, compliment to the camera equipment in terms of the microphone and everything, if the audio does work all throughout this match. Now going to the right-hand side here for the Western Force. Nick White goes across to Hamish Stewart. Tackled early by Frank Lamani. This is definitely going to be a game that he remembers for his 50th game of Super Rugby, and they win the turnover there, the Fijian draw, getting over the ball. Nick White was not happy with it, but it is going to be going the way of the Fijian draw. I think Chase Tiatia, the man who has been penalised for that one. 7.5 minutes through in this contest. Armstrong Ravula to kick this one downfield. And if this rain does not stop, we may see almost this whole field in flood heading into the second half. Already throughout the first 10 minutes, we have already seen the puddles getting bigger. And Tiatia run hard like a leaguey. Says, and it was good attack and run in the end. Unfortunately, though, for him, he just didn't release that ball as two Fijian draw players were ready to try and get that turnover. Going to the front there, Taveta Ikanaveri. It's a nice pass away for the Western Force. Now off and across. Bit of a hospital pass, but of course, got to pass a little bit slower in these conditions to make sure that it is going two hands. Apisalomi Vota doesn't have the pace that he was after, and that should be a turnover for the Western Force, and it is. Pops out the back door, although a Seful Masi now chasing after it. Cleaned up by Harry Potter. And it's on the halfway line now for the Western Force. Nick White going for the kick in behind. It was taken back, looking for a 50-22. The ball just stops when it lands. So I don't think we're going to see too many of those today. And that side of the field is extremely wet. Drua Sisi. There was a counter ruck there from the Western Force, and they have managed to get that ball back. Nick White. A short ball, you could hear the contact there on Faifua as he offloaded it to Horton. Behind White, going to Ben Donaldson. Sam Spink sells the dummy. Just rolls forward through the wetness. That was in fact Harry Potter. It's hard to tell with these numbers with the wetness underfoot. Now Nick White going back across. Islanders win tonight, says PSG. They've got a decent chance up against the Hurricanes. They are in Dunedin, so that gives them the home field advantage. And they've also got a very solid backline. Drop ball from Chase Tiatia, which means Apeli Momo now moves up to the halfway line. Now Frank Lamani going across to Hiri Tihiti. They are on the halfway line currently. Armstrong Ravula going for the kick behind, looking for a 50-22. It's going to pull up. And it's taken, no, he's knocked it on Ravatamundi. Couldn't decide if he wanted to kick it forward, pick it up cleanly, but instead it's going to be a penalty to the Fijian draw. The Chiefs suck. When no D-Max is PSG, I'd disagree a little bit. I feel like, to be honest, Josh Jacob didn't do too badly in that 10 jersey. I think that it was the discipline of the Chiefs forwards that was costing them heavily, plus the fact that they just couldn't quite find that next line break that they were after. So, I wouldn't put it all down to the fact that McKenzie wasn't there. I think they just weren't good enough on the day, and a few of their players who needed to step up just didn't. You know, they were talking about Manakai Selby-Rickett and Josh Law being the tallest locking duo we have seen so far in Super Rugby Pacific. They didn't use it at lineouts because they only had about a 60% success rate. And why did they rest D-Mac now, not next week instead, says Hanoi? It's a good question. I feel like they felt like it was a good time to give Josh Jacob that opportunity. And, you know, in certain regards, maybe it was. We don't know that D-Mac would have changed that game completely. Maybe it would have helped them a bit, but there were still too many errors from the Chiefs to just blame it on one player not being there. And, yeah, I think they'll be disappointed. You look at their backline, still got to look past that 9 and 10 combo. You've got Quinn Tupaia, Anton Leonard-Brown, Tino Nana Satoro. You've got Sean Stevenson. And you've got out on the right wing, I believe, who'd they go with in the end on the right wing? Amoni Nadawa. So that's pretty much an All Blacks backline. But it didn't work that way. Who have you got winning the Highlanders, the Hurricanes, and score? Winning, says PSG. I mean, I'll be honest, the Hurricanes, they're on a bit of a winning streak at the moment, so they could easily extend it. But I think that the Highlanders, they'll want redemption after losing to the Brumbies in Dunedin. So I think that they'll come out with a much better performance than they had in that game. Just whether or not the Hurricanes can do what they did to the Rebels, get those early points on the board and just keep that lead throughout the 80 minutes. But Frank Lamani going off to Alea Thanakai Vata. Of course, no Dirialangi for this game. Lamani again, popping it up 10 metres out from the line here. The Drua looking to strike early. But not quite as early as the Western Force did. There is plenty of moisture underfoot around the side of the breakdown. But Tavita Ikanaveri decides he wants to meet it head on. And all right, goodbye, dude, says a PSG. I was supposed to say the Highlanders were going to win, wasn't I, D-Mac, I assume? Or sorry, PSG, I should say. But now 10 metres out from the line. Back to the left-hand side, and that player's boot has just been pretty much completely plugged into the ground by the mud. Back out the left-hand side, Armstrong Ravula goes to Osifu Masi. One more, Apeli Momo. They're going to have to check it, but I think he's got it down. And that should be the first try of the match for the Fijian draw. The umbrellas are out in the stands. Still a massive crowd for this match. And yeah, big Landers fan. I could tell by the way I didn't quite give you the answer you were after, but the TMO, they don't have a TMO, so the referees have to come up with a decision, and they have ruled it as the try. So, first try of the match for the Fijian draw, Apeli Momo, the man who has been able to score it. It's the wide cutout pass. And then Osifu Masi gets it away. Oh, tell you what. Like they said, no TMO. And I think with the TMO, I don't want to say that that's not a try, but I think it would have been very close to no try. But because they do not have TMO available, they have to run with what is felt on the field. And one last question, could Jonah Nariki get an All Blacks call or no? It's a tricky one for him because, you know, his injuries in the past have set him back massively and has allowed other players to go in front of him. And I just don't know whether or not he's quite ready for that number 11 jersey, to be honest. And I feel like Scott Robinson would be the same. He would probably still take someone like a Caleb Clark over Jonah Nareki. I think maybe you'd consider, you know, a Tenai Nanai Sator. Although for me, he's been a bit 50-50 this season. I feel like first few rounds he was great, but ever since then he looks like he's making a lot of early mistakes in a game that heavily costs him. And Fiji will have a home game in Melbs next week. Taurong is here. See as it was there from Hanoi. The ball is going to be kicked up high. Nicely taken by the Fijian draw. Now they weren't able to convert, so it keeps the score sitting at 5 points to 5. Armstrong Ravula back across. This time to Apisalomi Vota. That ball's just stopped. Makes it a hard day at the office for a fullback as you don't know whether that ball's going to roll onto you or whether it is going to completely stop. Counter ruck there from the Fijian drawer. I think that there's a bit of static going on out there as well with the technical difficulties. And people say Jacob Highland is number 15, has a good chance. Oh, and push and shove here. Looks like Lamani and Nick White are going at it. Oh yeah, bit of push and shove still going on there between Lamani and a couple of the Western Force players. Trying to pick on the halfback, although it doesn't look like it's going too well as Lamani is biting straight back. Well, Nick White getting grabbed. So yes, I know, yeah, he had him in is it Muay Thai clinch, isn't it? When you go around the back of the neck with your fingers locked, he actually had Nick White on one of those. Ready to drag him down to the mat if he needed to. Okay, so it's just been said, Nick White was talking away. The referee said, listen, like you're going to get your extra 10 metres because it was started by Frank Lamani, but he doesn't want any more of it throughout this game. And Fiji will have home game in Melb. And also, looks wet and going to swim, says Brandon. Yeah, it looks extremely wet at this game. I'm looking forward to when someone scores like a breakaway try and about 4 other teammates all slide on the ground as well. I feel like that is going to happen. Red, maybe no red card. Playing in Fiji, you know, there's a bit of scuffle, but that's just pretty much get on with the game, and that's what the referee said. Now, Nick White in position here for the Western Force. Let's carry forward for the Force. Now back across Nick White. Goes to the big man Ryan Coxon and try. There's Vinny there. And Drua take the game to the Western Force and capitalise on the points in case the game is called off in the second half due to the adverse weather conditions. So here's Luke. That's the thing, I don't think they'll call off the game. But if they did, I think it would just count as a draw rather than whoever was leading at the time. I haven't actually seen too many games get abandoned, but yeah, I think normally it just ends up being a draw if they aren't able to complete the game. Takes me back to Cape Town this week. So here's Brandon. Now, luckily the coverage hasn't cut out yet In terms of at the ground, why in the Crusaders game yesterday they got a penalty after they scored? It's a good question because in the Leinster game, they actually had the same situation, but it did not get called as a penalty, and in fact, it was a yellow card. So just the differences in terms of competitions and rulings. When are you streaming cricket next? Says your mum. It's a good question. When is the international cricket back? I think we're a little way away. We haven't really got any plans of doing the PSL or the IPL on the channel, which are the two main ones that are taking place at the moment. Also, Bangladesh versus Sri Lanka. We don't cover those ones because last time we covered a Sri Lanka game, we got a copyright strike and had to deal with that for about 3 weeks. So, yeah, we're running a bit low in terms of the cricket that is on. I might, like, county cricket might be an idea, but then all those games are streamed on YouTube anyway, so it's just as easy to be able to watch them rather than watching me. Like, next one's probably going to be the Pakistan versus New Zealand T20 series, if that goes ahead, as there's talking points that maybe it may not even be able to take place. We have there, do you get to stream the T20 World Cup and copyright? I'll try and do some of the T20 World Cup, I think, this year. And obviously the conversion try did not go through. Says Vinny, it did not know. So both sides are sitting with one missed conversion so far, sitting 5-5 on the scoreboard. Now ball's fed in and the penalty goes the way of the Fijian Drua. Quick tap taken by Frank Lamani. Has got Ravatamunda on his outside. And the Fijian Drua score the try of Pelimomo. No, there he is. Lamani slid through afterwards. Thought that someone might with the first breakaway. The Fijian Drua crowd are absolutely loving it as their side now take the lead in this contest. Do you think, or who do you think will win the T20 Cricket World Cup? There's still about those 4 or so sides, I think, that are right at the top, which is Australia, India, and then I'd probably say, South Africa at the moment. They're playing some very good T20 cricket, part of the IPL, like Clarkson and all those boys are getting some good runs. So who knows, maybe they can get a little bit closer. New Zealand, it's a bit hard to know whether or not they are in the running, and then you can never quite underestimate someone like an England or a Pakistan. So I think that it's going to be a real good World Cup. West Indies, who knows, maybe even they could come back and get themselves a big win. But Ravatamunda did the big swan dive straight into the moisture. 17 minutes in. Armstrong, Ravula to line up this kick after Fijian Drua have taken the lead. And now that kick is successful. So it has gone over, and it now makes the score 12 points to 5 in favour of the Fijian Drua. Yeah, it is not an easy game to play in at the moment. Are China any good at cricket? They are not that I know of. I haven't actually seen any Chinese cricket. I've seen that kind of South Asian cricket, Malaysia, Philippines, those type of regions, but yeah, no China as of yet that I've seen. And what a kick says, very good kick from the touchline. Ben Donaldson has dropped that one, but it has gone backwards. So there's going to be play on. Who do you think is the trickiest group in the T20 World Cup? Says your mum. I'll be honest, I've actually forgotten who's in what group. I think it's similar to last year, isn't it, in terms of some of the sides that New Zealand have. You might have to remind me, who's actually in each of the groups? Your mum, do let me know. Now going out wide, Celestino Ravatamunda bumps through the tackle attempt of Chase Tia. Now Lamani back across to Armstrong, Ravula. And up to Canes 2024 is our year. Let's go. Says Razor Robinson charge down there for the Western Force. And because it's so wet out there, it went 1 metre after he charged it down. Now kicked him on from Nick White. Ball's going to pull up. Now Drua CC. Low tackle made by Tim Anstey. Tried to get him again but wasn't able to. 14 for the draw. Would be good in the league. Siazanoi. I think Celestino Ravatamunda, he's going to be good in any type of rugby that he plays. If he played sevens, I think he would also be a handy option. Here comes a Pelimomo. He was wrestled into touch. England and Australia are in the same group. Says your mum. Yeah, see, that'll be interesting because, like, I'm just going to quickly go T20 World Cup. I was hoping that you would list the two groups, but I can have a quick look now. Hopefully. We're only 63 days away from the competition. Matches stolen by Apelli or Atonia Wanga. Nick White stayed down. I think he may have taken a bit of head contact. Here comes Tavera Canaveri, trying to bulldoze his way towards the try line, round the side. Drua Sisi is forced down to the ground again. Just another score and the Hukawara run. Now Lamani pops it back up to Ilia Thanakai-Vata, covering the Olympics this year. We are indeed. And Mark Chapman played his international debut with Hong Kong, or made his international debut with Hong Kong. So here's a JYD. That's going to be a kick attempt from the Force. There is a knock on, though, from the Drua. Some of the players, you can just see the pure amount of water that is making their way from their heads after they've been in the turf. 21 minutes through, sitting 12 points to 5. And India and Pakistan are in the same group. Yeah, so that's a little bit similar to what we saw last time. In terms of Australia, England, South Africa, I think was also in that group last time. India, Pakistan, New Zealand. And who was the other team that they had in New Zealand's group? I know that they had a couple of the lower teams, such as the Netherlands and Ireland, or Scotland, I think it was. And crikey, it's a swimming pool out there. So here's Razor Robinson. Yep, it's extremely wet. Probably the wettest game of Super Rugby that we've had in quite some time. But there's a lot of smiles out there on the faces of the players. Let me start the week after my birthday. And money's being popped everywhere, says a Razor Robinson. I mean, we saw the try celebration from Celestino Ravatamanda as he dove over the try line. It did look extremely damp out there. And it is still raining. It doesn't look like it's raining as heavily now, though. Like, it's still, like, what you would call a heavy rain. Also, Nick White is the worst. I can't stand him. So here's Razor Robinson. Oh, they're going upstairs to check a clean out on Nick White. Now, they said that they didn't have a TMO earlier on. Now, apparently, they do have one. And I think Kiwi a bit late today. The drawer in front. He scored, as you may have to correct it. Says Vinny. No, it's exactly right. 21 minutes gone on the dot. 12 points to 5 in favour of the Fijian Drua. Okay. Thanakai-Vata meets the threshold of a yellow card for his contact on Nick White. Oh, you just did it nice, says Vinny. Clear shoulder to head contact. It's met the yellow card threshold. Was it red card worthy? I know Nick White went down and said, ow, my face, but I'm not sure if it's similar to the Faf de Klerk one at the World Cup, or prior to the World Cup, or whether it is a serious one. We're about to see the replay here. So Nick White joins the breakdown. Yeah, there's some force that comes in on it, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's upgraded to a red. It'd be a little bit unlucky, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Are you going to stream India versus Australia at the end of the year? Says your mum. I think that will be on the cards. It's just depending on what other games are on at the same time. Normally the November internationals are on when those cricket matches do take place. But, you know, we've done a little bit of test match cricket, and I am hoping to do that yet again when it comes around. The Ashes next year, I am keen on covering that whole series with it taking place in Australia. We did the last Ashes, and that was brutal in terms of the time zones, but we made it work, did as much of it as we could. And I'm not either, but tune in for Hamish's live broadcast at 7all in the women, says Novmum. And also, sorry, Ref looking like he's getting very wet. Well, he's not the only one out there on the field. The players are suffering big time when they dive on the ground. And nicely taken by the Fijian Drua, who do sit 40 metres out from their line. Now going back across. And they will kick it downfield, and it's nicely done. It actually bounces in the field of play and rolls out. They've got the 50-22. That was not inside of the 22, I don't believe, though. So they probably got a little bit lucky with where that one's gone out. Amish no BBL last year. Are you more this year? I mean, maybe. I think it depends on, once again, in terms of schedules and what is happening in terms of what we are able to cover, because I know that the November internationals, of course, will be taking priority throughout November. I think that we'll have some sevens that will also be taking place. So it just all depends on, I guess, what ends up overlapping and what we can end up covering. But we'll try our best. Like, at the end of the day, I think we still stream a lot more than most do. In terms of, like, this weekend, we've got 4 games back-to-back of Super Rugby, plus 2 more games of the URC. We also did a Super Rugby game and a URC game last night and this morning. So, like it's not through a lack of trying that we haven't been able to cover all the games. It's just sometimes when you've been up for 30 hours, you need a little bit of a rest. But, yeah. Sadly, I'm not quite a robot like I'm sure some of you wish I was. There's going to be the penalty going the way of the Fijian Drua. This will be about 25 metres out. The clean-out was wrong from the petty 5-4. Nick White won't be remembered for anything except crying to the ref for penalties. The time he got fended off by Aaron Smith for a try. Says Razor Robinson. Off the field, though, he's a pretty nice bloke, from what I've heard for Nick White. Like, a while ago, this is unknown information to the public, but ages ago, few years I think it was, back when we were looking to do some sort of player interview for the Rugby Championship, I messaged every All Blacks player, I messaged every Australian player, and Nick White was the only one out of anyone to actually bother replying. So, like, for that reason, off the field, as well as, like, what you see him doing in terms of helping develop younger kids' rugby, like, he's a good guy. It's just on the field he annoys people because he's got that classic halfback kind of mentality of I'll do a lot of talking and then I'll annoy the opposition. And Drua playing like it's a nice hot summer day. This is crazy. There's Razor Robinson. It's been raining for almost a month, I guess. There's Vinny. That one lining it up, Armstrong. Ravuli's got the kick over. And that'll now make the score 15 points to 5 in favour of the Fijian Drua. And they are playing with a man disadvantage as well. I should mention, I'll remember his tackle on Dawn van der Merwe in Edinburgh. It was great. Plus, he's a nice bloke. Says Annoy. And I was working there. You're right, Nick White is a good guy off the field, but I hate him as a player. His interviews, he interviews like a top bloke also. Right, it's going to review stay as a yellow. They have just said that Kaivata will be back out on the field in the next maybe 6 or so minutes. Below Hamish, I'm late again. What have I missed? Well, it is raining. It is extremely wet at the game, but the Fijian Drua have got themselves the lead after a try from each of their wingers. Momo and Ravatamanda cross kick attempted. Lamani gets it straight into the hands of Ravatamanda, now flying down the outside. Was Eliza Drua CC. 2 players flying into each other. It's a dangerous game out there when you're slipping and sliding. But the Drua are the side who have popped up with the ball. Now Lamani goes for the kick behind. Tia knocks it on. Lamani almost looking like he was swimming for it. Oh, okay. Now Lamani might be getting a little bit carried away there. Nick White was just telling him a little bit. Yeah. Lamani's pretty much just been told, don't grab Nick White by the throat like you just did or else you'll get in trouble. Why didn't Nick White get taken off the field for an HIA? Says Razor Robinson. They probably assumed since he was still talking flat out he was fine. He's the only player who's got a face full of dirt at the moment, though. So you wonder whether or not that's on purpose from the Fijian Drua. Maybe they've just pushed the head down. Yeah, he wanted the ball, Nick White, so he gave him a little push. And then Frank Lamani just grabs him by the throat. Not in a, like, aggressive, like, I'm going to choke you way, but just in a way as if to say, look, don't annoy me. And Nick White, I feel like that's what he wants. He wants to annoy him. He wants to get under his skin. And currently it's working. Going off to the left-hand side. Forward pass from Armstrong Ravulin. The referee has seen it. And there's absolute madness out there. Says Razor Robinson. But I'll be honest, like the way that the game is playing at the moment, with the amount of rain that we've had, I feel like that actually evens the playing field a little bit more. Like, yes, we haven't seen the Western Force play in these kind of conditions. But, like, yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see how the second half goes. Definitely if it is going to continue raining and it's going to continue getting more and more wet out there on the field. However, then Nick White reminds me of one of the All Blacks guys, professional foul. Says Vinny. Might be Mitch Drummond that you're thinking of, Vinny. I know that he is one who likes to milk a penalty every once in a while, like passing it into guys who are offside just for the sake of it. Now Nick White to feed this ball in for the Western Force. Nicely taken. Off the back now. They will look to use it on the short side, but he slipped over. And then it's a knock on from Hamish Stewart after the pass from Nick White was rough. It pretty much bounced to him. There was 2 errors in a row from Nick White, which I'm sure Lamani will be very happy about. I've never seen a game like this. With so much sliding. It's hilarious, chaotic, and entertaining as anything. Says Razor Robinson. Is Ronnie Sal in the reserve? These are the reserves for these two sides, so they have actually got Rakuro as the number 23 with Nalanga as 22. But, yeah, we'll be interested to see how they use them. Max Burry, also a very handy player for the Western Force that they can go to later on in the contest. And Ronnie Sal is not, I believe. I like the Dane Coles. For anyone except an All Black fan. Says Razor Robinson, but that is now going to be the quick tap taken by Frank Lamani. Keeping the ball alive. Osefo Masi tried to go on the outside, but it slips straight through the hands. It is going to be a knock on, I believe, from the Western Force by Bailey Coenzel, I thought it was, but it looks like it's actually going to be a Western Force line-out. I can't stand Mitch Drummond either. So here's Razor Robinson. It looks like it is going to be a line-out. One moment, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to sneeze again, so I will quickly mute myself. Right, we are good. And now, ball on the side of the Fijian Drua. Only just, because of course with the wet conditions, doesn't make it too easy at all. I like Nick White until the day he milked that penalty. I had him ever since. Says Spider Mech. And Drua Sesi decides against going with the inside ball. Drua, 11 minutes remaining in this first half, and they have got that lead by 10. So if they can get themselves 1 or 2 more tries here, can drastically boost them up. Another big shot coming in on the Drua. Lamani goes across to Armstrong Bravula. It's dropped, but up at Salome Vota. Has been able to clean it up. What's the likelihood of Masi scoring today? It's relatively high. It's just whether or not they can get it to him in their backline. I feel like as a winger in this game, you are much more likely to cross that try line just because you just keep going through the hands until you get to the last bloke. Tackle without the ball. Penalty in favour of the Fijian Drua. And they'll go back now for that penalty. I wonder if the Crusaders will try and poach the Drua 13 for next season. Says Razor Robinson. And if the Drua can win this comp, it'll keep more guys in rugby and safe from NRL scouts. Says Hanoi. And my woman not doing so well this game. They better come back in the second half, says Nova. They better, or else that would be 2 losses from 2 for the Chiefs in this round, unfortunately. Which, of course, is something that not many people would have expected. Looks like Armstrong Ravula. Once again, line up a 3-pointer here for the Fijian Drua. Having Fijian Drua stay calm and no grabbing the neck. Says Vinny. Yeah, I feel like he's got to be careful, Lamani, because you probably can't do that too many times before the referee gets quite angry at you. Definitely because I've already had the warning. Armstrong Ravula. Got another one over. Tell you what, he missed his first kick, which was from the touchline. So that's probably understandable. But from there, it's been nailing everything else. How come Munt's not playing yet? He is still injured, but he's getting very close to returning. Now, the big question that the Fijian Drua will have to decide on is, what do they do once Muntz returns? Do you chuck him straight back into that 10 jersey? Or do you keep this youngster, Isaiah Armstrong Ravula, who has been doing very well? Nicely taken by the Drua inside of their 22. That's going to be the big man running forward, Osefo Masi. Are you commentating the Canes game tonight? We certainly are. We are doing all 4 Super Rugby games. So we're doing 4 back-to-back. It's going to be a bit brutal, but that is the plan. Nicely taken by Harry Potter on the halfway line. And no, Hamish, another one. He was the old Times player of the All Blacks. And is it Justin Marshall, says Razor? Maybe. Could be the one. Big shot from Celestino Ravatamanda. Short ball off for the Western Force. This is probably their first real attacking play that we've seen for them in about 20-something minutes. Nice skill shown by Tim Anstey. He managed to keep that ball in the field of play, and I think he might get himself the turnover as well for the Western Force. Yes, he does. Brilliantly done. Another knock on, though, from the Western Force. And every time it goes into the breakdown, or every time it touches the ground, now keep Isaiah 10 months at 22. Vice man Valentini for the finals. Also, who are you sacking out of Muntz and Isaiah if they're both playing well for Valentini? Or are you playing Valentini as 23 and having him maybe as a centre replacement for later in the game? Any Fijians in the Force? Says Mr. Billy. Not that I know of. They've got a couple Pacific Island boys in there. The likes of Lapiti Faifua as well as Chase Tiatia, but neither of those boys from Fiji. I don't believe. In terms of their bench, finds Leliawas is there, but I don't know if he is Fijian. Right, they're going to get an HIA going. I think that is for Harry Potter. Just about to make his way from the field. Is that Harry Potter? I can't work out. There might be Sam Spink, in fact, who is coming off. Muntz gets dropped and the Iceman on in the last 5 minutes. There's Razor Robinson. 7 minutes remaining in the first half. Also, when did Prinsep move to the Force? I believe it was last year from the Hurricanes. He made this switch, so this is his first season for the Western Force. Andrew surely will sail through, says Kaliapa. Hopefully I've said that correctly. I do apologise if I've pronounced that slightly wrong. They should get the win. Like, they're up by 13 at the moment, and I see them getting 1 or 2 more tries afterwards. And a baby in a draw blanket in the crowd, says Hanoi. I mean, they showed when Frank Lamani was running onto the field for his 50th game, he had his kid with him. It was probably only like maybe 18 months or 2 years old. And, yeah, just running out onto the field in the pouring rain with the baby. And Max Burry has made his way onto the field. It was for Harry Potter. In the end, didn't recognise him without his glasses and the scar. Who's refereeing the game as he fared dinkum. He's doing all right so far, Ruben Keane. That one has not found touch from the Fijian draw. So now Max Burry will put it high. Tia chasing after it. But nicely taken by Armstrong Ravula. Good morning, all. Says Pads Blaze. Welcome in, mate. Counter ruck coming. The penalty goes the way of the Fijian drawer. I didn't realise. I thought he got straight dropped. Prinsep is a tad slow, in my opinion. Says Razor Robinson. He's a decent player overall. I'll read Prinsep. Like, that's the thing. He has ups and downs like pretty much any loose forward. And he is getting closer to the end of his career, of course. But that is somewhere that seems to be when they end up at the Western Force. You look at someone like a Jeremy Thrush, or you look at a couple of those other guys that they had last year that ended up retiring this year. Who was the fella out on the wing that they had last year in the centres? Outside centre, recently retired from Super Rugby. Who was that, ladies and gentlemen? Do let me know. Who do the Western Force have in the centres? I can't think of him off the top of my head. That's because I can only think of the name Harry Potter at the moment. But it's not straight from the Fijian draw, which does mean scrum feed. Oh, they also had the 15, Rob Carney. He ended up playing his last season of rugby for the Western Force. Who else did they have? That midfielder. It's going to really annoy me if I can't think of him. Nemani Nadolo. He was there, wasn't he? But not him. And was it Sean Fitzpatrick? Says Joe Webby. Drew is creeping away, snail pace. And our Western Force keep dropping it forward. says Vinny. And yeah, to say that they aren't used to these conditions is probably an understatement. Like, these are not the type of games that you have in Perth. Normally in Perth, it's extremely dry. Whereas here, it is extremely wet. Nick White, Will on his fourth back here, gets it across to Ben Donaldson. Had a bit of a fumble of the ball. Nicely taken and put pass up here for Celestino Ravatamanda, looking for the chip and chase. And went back to Ireland and said how amateur Western Oz rugby is, and down the rankings of popularity. Says Annoy. That one is going to be knocked on. I'm still trying to think of who the midfielder was, and it's going to annoy me, so I'm going to have to look up Western Force's squad last year. Who was it? We're going to look for... Okay, everywhere has their 2024 squad confirmed. We will look at that at halftime. I got 3 minutes, Joe Webby. Yes, I thank you. I was wrecking my brain, Banaka. Says Vinny. And 14 to 28 halftime, Blues woman leading. And also, I hope the field is not flooded. It is. It's pretty wet out there. Even in the areas where it's not flooded, you can still see a lot of moisture just on the surface about to bust through if it keeps on raining. I think for now the rain has lightened, which is a good sign, but it's certainly not going to be dry by the end of this game. And Bulla Fiji go the Force, says health for wealth. The ball has gone in. And well, you have to get used to any condition, although to be fair, they don't have to deal with these conditions pretty much anywhere but Fiji. One's going to be kicked downfield, advantages over the ball, just sits up there. Nicely claimed by Upper Salomi Vota. Ball on the inside to Masaki Donge, who offloads it across to Wanga. His name is Jordan Fitzpatrick, God bless his heart. There's Vinny there. Now back across to the left-hand side. Pele Momo gets through one into Vera Kanaviri, wrestled down just inside of the Western Forces half. 1 minute remaining on the clock. Lamani asking for the penalty. The referee says it's your own player who's blocking the ball. Vata cleaning that one up for the Drua. Cross to the left-hand side, rush defence there from Ryan Coxon, who just slides completely through. Now across. The draw up to 40 metres out, I should say. And the penalty goes the way of the Western Force again. The field is being ripped up, but it certainly is. No arms, actually, is the call there. Momo is causing Potter nightmares. Although Harry Potter probably doesn't remember this first half as he's gone off for an HIA. We have there in Perth and Fijians have already mixed up the carver. Oh, hang on. They're going to check this one for Tavita Ikanaviri. Discipline here for the Fijian Drua, starting to slip just like the players. We're about to see here a replay. No arms tackle from Tavita Ikanaviri. How bad was it? If it was really bad, he could find himself going to the bin as well. Okay, so he did get the shoulder into the head of Bailey Quinzel, who we have not really seen throughout this game so far. Just showing the best camera angle. Just looking through for the breakdown that it was. Here it is. So Bailey Quinzel does make the tackle, gets back up to his feet and gets a shoulder to the side of the head. Now, is it a yellow card threshold? It is. They've said that it's a yellow card. Here's the number one professional foul to the max. And crowd getting into it says, Mr. Billy, they are. Like, even with the weather being the way that it is, like, they are still absolutely loving it. Yellow, says Annoy. Davida Ikanaviri. He's disappointed. He's going to be making his way from the field now. 2 yellows for the Fijian Drua. Force must win and come on ref. They are with the card. Let the game flow. And nothing in that, says Razor Robinson. Now the Western Force, they are going to have themselves a kick towards the touchline. This will be the last play, more than likely, of the half. And stupid play by Fiji again. Says Mark in Churchill Park, my old stomping ground. Says health for wealth. Well, the question is, did you ever play when it was pouring, or did you watch rugby when it was pouring in this kind of manner? Because it is absolutely soaked out there. Inside ball, Bailey Quinzel does well to keep that ball in his hands 40 metres from the line, and we have just ticked over the 40-minute mark, which means we have a stoppage now. It is going to be half-time. And yes, says Jack. And Force win. Can put the Satyrs back on bottom. Says Annoy, that is true. And back across Nick White. Goes to Santiago Medrano. That is one of his first carries. Isn't Tavita the captain? He is. So I believe they'll have a new captain in play now. Probably Josefa Masi, I would say, will end up with the captaincy. Passed on the outside. Sam Spink goes to chase Tia, and he scored the try for the Western Force just before the end of the half by the looks of it. So you say you will be commentating the Canes game? I certainly am, as well as the game between the Blues and Moana Pacifica, which is the next contest that has taken place. Then also that game after that between the Reds and the Brumbies. Then we have got Sharks versus Edinburgh and also Stormers versus Ulster. And played when the ground was flooded. Says health full health, but this is a good time to score a try for the Western Force. Gets them back into the contest. And making the most of that yellow card. I watched rugby at school level in the pouring rain. It was about 7 degrees though, and come on the Western Force, says health for wealth. And yes, says a Heath there as well. It's not going to be an easy kick though from the sideline. And I think that they'll still be pretty happy to only be down by the 8 if this kick is unsuccessful from Ben Donaldson. So I've got another 8 minutes left of that yellow card as well. I went to school with Tia. He made love to a girl on our first 15 rugby field. There's Razor Robinson. Sounds like he loves rugby. As our 2 yellow cards for the draw. Says Mr. Billy, it is. So Tavita Kinaviri receiving the second one. The first one was received by Elia Thanakaivata. And now Donaldson trying to strike it. Doesn't get the cleanest connection. I believe that is because he didn't want to slip over. Play rugby and hail. There's Pads Ablaze. Also, oh, you silly gullet. Says Vinny. And there as well. He's thinking of his rugby boys when shagging. Says Annoy. He's doing it for the boys. Do you think a Kinaviri goes into clear waters or shark-infested waters? Is it 10 minutes or is it sent off? Says DJ Shack. I believe it will just be 10 minutes for the yellow card. I don't see it being upgraded to a red just because I feel like it was almost a little bit lighter than the Ilya Thunakaivata one earlier on. 18 points to 10, the score at half-time between these two sides, ladies and gentlemen. Relatively even contest in terms of, I guess, the fact that they're both playing in the rain, but on paper, the Fijian Drua have got that little bit of an advantage, and they will look to extend on that in the second half. They'll try and get themselves possible bonus point, and that's the thing. If they can somehow win this game by 3 tries or more, they are currently sitting on the 2 tries, and the Western Force have got themselves the 1, but if the Drua can get themselves 2 extra tries and make it 3 ahead, that would actually shoot them right up to 6th place, I believe, on the current table. Although, to be fair, the Rebels did get themselves the win. So that would mean the Rebels are on 14. So more than likely the draw, yes, they would need that bonus point and they'd go ahead on points differential. Whereas without that bonus point win, they would find themselves sitting in 7th, which is still a little bit of a gain. They go above the Highlanders, who have got a game later on tonight up against the Hurricanes. Crusaders, they are no longer sitting in last, I should mention as well. They are actually above, but this is the table at the start of the round, just to show how the sides have progressed. Chiefs, of course, still sitting on the 18. Same with the Waratahs. I believe they are still sitting on the 7 after their games. And come on, Force draw. He was a bloody quick runner, young Tia, but played 10 at school. And discipline will cost the draw, says Hanoi. Also went to school with the Safa Moore, who played 8 till year 13, then moved to hooker, and also played in the snow against the Waiaru Army Cadets. Just remember from being them all being really fit and all skinheads. They played incredibly tough but fair, says Mark, and High Blessed East End regards, says International there, I think that is. So welcome in, hope you are doing extremely well, and happy Easter to you two. Hopefully you have been spoiled over the weekend. But a lot of rugby happening this weekend, that is for sure. We are getting spoiled for choice. We've got 4 games back to back to back. We have got there, hey mate, have you heard an injury update on Mary Derialangi? I believe it's knee, if I'm not wrong, and he's only supposed to be out for a few weeks. I don't think it's too serious for Mary Derialangi. I'll just have a quick Google and see if I can learn anything else. Mary Derialangi. What do we got in terms of news? 3 weeks ago? No. No. Okay, it doesn't seem like they've got too much of an injury update per se, but I heard someone say it was knee. Same to you, IMCA. Says Vinny and Toso says JMS, and I went to school with the guy whose older bro got steamrolled by Lomu in 1992 schoolboys game. And thanks, I haven't heard much either, and commentating on the Hong Kong Sevens next week. New Fiji coach, I am indeed covering the Hong Kong Sevens. We've got plenty rugby coming around, the Champions Cup as well next week. We are going to be covering on the channel. I'm currently actually looking through at last year's squad for the Western Force. Try and find the player that I was thinking of that did end up retiring. It was actually 2022, I believe, the squad when they had all those older players, such as Rob Carney and whatnot. We have got there, thanks. That's more than I've heard, says Fijian Beauty. So, yeah, I believe it is knee for him. Greg Holmes, I think he is. Is he still there at the Western Force? We also see, of course, they had Jeremy Thrush in 2022. And the back line, I'm about to find him. Richard Kahui is the one I was thinking of, who was at the Western Force. They've got a live performance in Fiji, which, to be fair, is quite impressive because of the amount of rain that is falling. But I'm not actually sure who it is performing. I know that she's singing Crazy with the 2 blokes behind her. We have got there, what do you think the draw game plan should be for the second half to secure the win? I think that they just have to continue playing this attacking style of rugby that they have been, because the benefit that they've got is when it comes to the free-flowing rugby, I think that they have got a huge advantage over the Western Force here. Who's Moana playing today? They are going to be playing the Blues, and they are actually going to be playing the Blues at Eden Park, even though it's a Moana Pacific home game. I think that that's pretty rough, to be honest. Richard Kahui was a real old boy. And by that point, says Razor Robinson. But yeah, they have got the Blues. That is actually the next game. That is kicking off at 4:30 p.m. New Zealand time. And Mr. Billy Blues and Kahui, is he still living in Perth? Not actually too sure whereabouts he's ended up, Richard Kahui, now. I wouldn't be surprised if someone from one of the American teams said to him, come and play for us. Looking through at some of the stats for this first half, ladies and gentlemen. 1 try for Celestino Ravatamanda. He's had 75 metres carried, 3 defenders beaten, and also has had the 1 clean break. Whereas Apeli Momo on the other wing, he's had 1 try, 59 metres carried, 3 defenders beaten, and 1 clean break as well. For the Western Force, the most running metres we have seen is actually Chase Tiatia. He has got 28, followed by Harry Potter, and then Bailey Quinn Zo is the next highest. Masaki Donge, he has made 6 tackles. And then Hamish Stewart and also Tim Anstey have both made 11 for the Western Force. And Carlo Tizzano, 13 tackles made, 2 turnovers won. All 3 of the loose forward trio for the Western Force have made 10 or more tackles. And they have also all got at least 1 turnover to their names. So doing pretty decently in that regard. But they have had to make a huge amount more tackles than the Fijian draw. We're seeing 97 made by the Western Force compared to the 38 made by the Fijian draw. Wasn't Kahui an All Black? He certainly was. And all the best in the second half, says Vinny there as well. And who do you think is the player of the match so far? I'd probably say Ravatamanda in terms of what we've seen. If the Western Force went on to win this game, you'd either look at maybe Carlo Tazzano, or, you could make an argument and say, who was the other one that I was thinking of? Maybe like Tim Ants. Oh, has Anstey done enough? No, probably not. So you'd probably go Tazzano for what he's done in the breakdown. And also Vanaka Hamish are going to bow out. Blessings, folks, says Vinny. So we will possibly see you later on. Oh, yeah, good there. Tomorrow, draw tomorrow. All the best, says Dal Nivalu. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Yeah, second half just around the corner. The thing that's hurt the Fijian draw at this point is the fact that they have had 2 tries. That is a good thing, but they've also had 2 yellow cards matching the tries scored. And that first half in the Western Force, they have actually scored 2 tries as well in this contest. It means that the draw would actually need 3 more tries in the second half if they do want to walk away with that bonus point. They have beaten 25 defenders compared to the Western Force, who have only beaten the 2. And then also 384 metres gained compared to the 132 of the Western Force. Penalties, we've seen 7 against the Western Force, just for pretty different things, and also 60% in favour of the Fijian draw when it comes to possession. Oh yeah, I got Asawa Nasilisila sitting on watching this game. He didn't look impressed with the music that was being played. Yeah, only a 84% tackle completion for the Western Force, whereas the Fijian draw are sitting there with a 95% tackle completion at this point. And also Vanaka Vinny says a Fijian beauty there, and also 2 Yell says eyes on my keyboard. But do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think will be walking away with the victory? Currently the Fijian draw, they have got the 8-point advantage. The way that it sits, they have got a very strong bench still intact that they can use at any stage throughout the rest of this contest. Whereas for the Force, I believe that Max Burry is still on the field. That is the replacement for Harry Potter. Of course, the Western Force, the fact that they were able to score right on the verge of half-time, I think will give them quite a bit of confidence going into this second half. But it's the big question mark of what is going to happen in the second half. Is it going to be the Fijian draw being able to extend this lead, or is it going to be a little bit of a late fight back from the Western Force? The rain is still pouring, and it's not pouring as heavily as it was earlier on, though. Why do you think the draw coaches prefer Lamani over Kuravuli? Is it just experience? It's a good question. I know that Lamani has been given that opportunity a lot more throughout the season than Kuravuli. Personally, throughout that Rugby World Cup, I thought that Kuravuli was the stronger of the 2, but that was also because he offered that kicking game, which Fiji did struggle with after losing Caleb Muntz. So I think that is something that probably put Kuravuli a little bit higher up on my list. So maybe that is why they go with Lamani more for that attacking early, but I think that Kuravuli is just as capable in terms of being able to get that sort of thing going. And Kuravuli did some important things better at the Rugby World Cup, and agreed on Kuravuli. Good commentary, says Fijian Beauty. But yeah, like the fact that they've got both options, and then they've got Penimatawalu as just that little bit more of a backup if they do need him. Like, it's pretty handy for the Fijian draw. I think the tricky part is going to be, though, when Caleb Muntz comes back, they're going to have to make some massive decisions in terms of who is going to be the one that they, I guess, give that big opportunity to at 10, whether they stick with Armstrong Ravula, seeing as he has been the pick of the 10s just for this year, mainly because he's been one of the only options. Kimu Valentini, I think that he is a much better option off the bench rather than starting, but they've got to try and decide how do they approach it going forward. Our second half is just around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. I'd say we're probably about 2 minutes away from the players making their way back out onto the field. She had just started a little bit of, what song was that she was just starting to sing? I think she was singing a little bit of Tina Turner, Simply the Best. And, of course, both of these sides want to prove that they are simply the best of Super Rugby. They are on the verge of the top 8. The Fijian draw in that top 8 currently, but another one here would help get them that little bit further up, I haven't heard an update on Caleb Munt's recovery. Is there a timeline? I think he's going to be back within the next month, I believe. I think I heard at the start of this game, he's actually going along quite nicely. So there is a chance that we could see his name in a lineup before the end of May. Or before the end of April, in fact, maybe. You know, it's going to be tough, but he should be back for the Fijians when it comes to the international season. And it's just how quickly they want to try and rush him in. Of course, they don't want him re-injuring anything. And that's the hardest thing for a rugby player. You're always a little bit hesitant when you've just come back from an injury. You don't want to re-injure what you hurt in the first place. So yeah, I think for his sake, they may give him 1 or 2 extra weeks just to make sure that he's right at his best and at his fittest before they chuck him in again. So he might have a couple games off the bench instead of starting just to warm him up. But yeah, this is one of those games that, of course, I thought we'd see more injuries just because of the slipping and sliding nature. Like players, once they start slipping, you can't really control where your body's going. But we've only seen 1 HIA, I believe, at this point. And other than that, it's not looking too bad. Seen 2 yellow cards, though, for the Fijian Drua, which, of course, they cannot afford to have more of in the second half. They're just showing the ad for the Warriors. Of course, they are going to be playing tomorrow in the NRL. There was a part of me that was slightly considering covering that game on the channel. I'm trying my best not to sneeze at the moment before the second half gets underway. Crowd are loving the action, though, some of which who are under the stadium stand. It is a lot easier to stay dry. Okay, I think the performers at the ground are finished by the sounds of it. They are just talking to the Force assistant coach, Jimmy Duffy. He's saying they're finding it a little bit easier with the conditions now, that they are getting used to it, but it's very challenging off the bat. And even though it's horrific conditions, the players are still having fun, I think is the summary of what he's pretty much said there. I think that the wingers are definitely going to be the ones to watch out for in the second half. Just talking to Glenn Jackson as well, the assistant coach for the Fijian Drua. I said that the kicking long has actually worked quite well. Have they all changed their jerseys at halftime, says Mark? Not sure yet. The only jersey I can see at the moment is Glenn Jackson's. We are about to find out. No, it looks like they've still got the same ones. For the players, yeah, it looks like there's still a lot of mud around. Oh, Tavita Ikanaveri's yellow card has been upgraded to a red. He will not return in the rest of this contest, and he is just finding out the news now. He is quite surprised. He was still warming up. He had the foam roller getting ready to go for when he made his way back out onto the field, but that will not be the case, and that's going to be a big hit for the Fijian Druas. He has added a lot of stability when it's come to their lineout. Do you think Musty should go, give it a go, try and get another gold medal in the 7s, or stick with 15s for the national team, says Fijian Beauty? I think that he will know what way he wants to go. I think at the moment 15s is working very well for him, so I don't think he should jeopardise that. We've seen players before switch to another format of rugby and then struggle to get back to where they were. Perfect example of that is Caleb Clark. He ended up going to the New Zealand 7s. He was an All Black before that stage, and it took him probably an extra 2 years to get back to that point, and he didn't even play a game in that 2020 Olympics. So, you know, you got to make big decisions. And Caleb Clark made one of those. And I think that it cost him big time. So it depends on the player. Dupont at the moment is playing 7s. So it'll be interesting to see how he slots back in. Speaking of 7s, Michael Hooper making his debut next week for the Australians. Should be entertaining to watch him live in Hong Kong. Got another scrum reset now. A lot of leaning going on in the scrum, says the referee. Santiago Medrano. So on the front row alongside Coxon and Horton. One moment, I am about to sneeze. And we are good. Now Frank Lamani will be feeding that ball in. It's gone straight down in the front row. Nick White wanting the penalty. Right, I think I just heard the referee say there, I've got an assistant referee, but the commentary or like the communication isn't working. So, of course, with the weather conditions, it's not just impacting the players, it's also impacting how well the referees are able to communicate in this contest. Now, still an 8-point lead, and they've got 15 minutes remaining. Off to Vita Ikanaveri's red card, although I assume that will be slightly shorter once the scrum has gone down. Now Lamani goes across the Armstrong. Ravula kicks it in behind. Sifumasi. That is using the conditions to your advantage. And the ball just sits up in the in-goal area. Sifumasi scores it. And the Fijian Drua now get themselves a little bit more of a lead. 42.5 minutes through in this contest. And Sifumasi has scored himself the try, but Lamani, he went off to Armstrong Ravula, who just timed it well. Sifumasi was flat with him, but then just slams down on the ball. And then it's going to be his 6th try now in 3 weeks for the Fijian Drua. Oh. I think they're just testing out the communications again of the touch judges. Armstrong Ravula will be lining up this kick, but a great start to the second half for the Fijian Drua to strike early and get themselves another try. Now, probability of this kick going over is 94%, and it has gone over once more. It's the Drua, the lead of 25 points to 10, and now with a 15-point difference, that is back to where we were just before the Western Force scored themselves the try before half-time. Now it means they need one more, get to 2 ahead, and then 2 more will get them that bonus point. Amasi is a try scoring machine, says Joe Webber. Yeah, it is crazy to think that he's played pretty much the whole season, but it's only been the last 3 rounds that he's been able to score tries. They've kicked that one into touch. Nicely using the conditions to their advantage there, Fiji. Looks like the rain is still falling, but nowhere near as heavy as it was at the start of this game. So we may actually see a little bit more of a free-flowing game in the second 40 minutes. Getting ready to throw this one. So Tom Horton is not happy. The ball has been thrown in. Nick White goes across to Ben Donaldson, almost charged down was his kick. Nicely claimed by Eliza Drua Sisi, just inside of the Fijian 40-metre line. Rawatamanda joins the breakdown to get that ball there. Frank Lamani now offloads it away to Thanakai Vata, goes across to Armstrong Ravula. Once again, we'll go with the up and under, being chased hard by the Fijian Drua, but a slip leaves a gap there for Bailey Kuenzel. Gets into the half of the Drua. Nick White across the left-hand side, short pop pass up there from Reed Prinsep, but it's loose. It's going to be knocked on by the Drua. The advantage in favour of the Force, who have got numbers on this left-hand side. Sam Spink got on the outside to Max Berry. How many tries must he score? He scored 1 for this game, but he scored 6 in the last 3 weeks, including this one. Has number 13 been capped by Fiji yet? Can we get him into the ABs? He has been capped, so no, you can't steal him. And how can you tell if Mussy for sure has the captain's band, or is it someone else since Ikanaveri is out? Last game, when Ikanaveri was subbed, they did give it to Osefo Mussy because he had to do the coin toss at golden point time. So I would assume that that is what they have done again, definitely because they don't have Meli Langi, who would normally be that other captaincy option had he been there. But yeah, I can't guarantee it that they've given it to him. They may have given it to Lamani instead. But yeah, Osefo Mussy, probably not a bad option. We'll see when the Fijian Drua get in trouble, who they've decided to give it to. Big shot coming in on Sam. In fact, it was Hamish Stewart. Now Nick White back across to the right-hand side. Tim Anstey. Fijian draw, we're offside. Little pop pass up from Donaldson. Goes in behind, loose ball. And they'll go back for the original penalty. I reckon the Koalabees have a chance to take the Bledisloe Cup this year, Hamish, says Spider Mick. It'll be an interesting one. I feel like that Bledisloe, to be honest, like whoever loses that Bledisloe, it's going to be pretty brutal on them. It's either going to be Razor for the first time in a long time. We're going to see a Bledisloe Cup lost by New Zealand, or Joe Schmidt, just starting to be in charge of the Wallabies, is going to already have a blemish on his record of not taking out the Bledisloe. So, it's not a good time for either coach, really, I would say, with the amount of pressure that is on both of them to be able to win that, and both of them are expected to win it. Fijian defence looking good and strong as long as they can stay on side. So here's a Razor. Ben Donaldson. They've actually decided to opt for the 3 points here for the Western Force. Now, Donaldson is sitting 0 from 2 off the kicking tee. Now is taking some deep breaths here, Donaldson. And Joe Schmidt's at the helm. Says Spider-Mick. That kick has gone over. That will now make the score 25 points to 13. So still 12 points difference now. Aussie won't take Bledisloe this year. Joe Schmidt could maybe do it in 3 years if he's stuck around. Exactly. You've just said, I guess, the key there is if he's stuck around. And if he doesn't get sacked for some odd reason by Australian rugby, we've got to remember, if you're not putting performances on the board that the Australian board are expecting of you, you get kicked out. Like Eddie Jones, he had a 5-year contract. That was one of the worst mistakes that they've made. Now they'll look to really keep contracts a little bit shorter and keep a close eye on the players, on the coach. Western Force look like they're wearing a rugby league jersey, says Razor Robinson. It kind of looks like a combination of the Roosters and the Panthers type thing, doesn't it? Now going back across, Armstrong Ravula has the ball on the halfway line. Big run from Osefo Masi. We could hear that contact from here. Lamani goes across, knock on from Vofe. Vantage is over. Nick White gets the 50-22. And the Western Force have got themselves the line out. They won't be too happy with that, Nick White. He will be happy with it, though, getting that kick downfield, trying to keep his side in the game. If they can get themselves another try here, they are well and truly in this. Got to remember they have got that man advantage for the next maybe 10 or so minutes before they can put on the replacement for Tavita Ikanaviri. Sounds like it's going to be Lapeti Faifua making his way from the field. Sam Carter is now on the park. Nice claim by Reed Prinsep. On forward not too badly at the moment, the Western Force. Fijian draw players, about 3 of them actually falling off the side, which now gives the opportunity for the Western Force to use their backline. Going for the cross kick. Donaldson smashed in the tackle, but the cross kick is effective. Tia pins the ears back. He might have been out. I think he was. It's given. There we go. Chase Tia. Of course, with no TMO, we're going to get to see a replay of this, but I don't believe they have the option to look upstairs for a try. Who's in the top 4, Kiwi lads? Says Spider-Meat. The current top 4 is the Hurricanes, followed by the Chiefs, then the Brumbies, and then the Blues, I believe, are in 4th. Yep, there we go. Look at that. That is the top 4. And of course, the top 4 hasn't really changed after the 2 results that we saw. Ooh, his hand's close to sliding out there, Chase Tia. Oh, no, they are going to have a TMO check. See, at the start, they said they didn't have a TMO, and then I guess TMO arrived later, and they said, you know what, we might as well use him every once in a while. Now, they are going to be checking this one to see whether or not it is a try. We're going to see the slow motion, frame by frame, as he goes to ground. Yeah, that looks to me like he was out. Amasi is a gold medalist Olympian, says Mr. Billy. See, that angle, that almost looks like benefit of the doubt would go to chase Tia Tia. TMO got stuck in traffic. See his razor? TMO probably forgot his boat, seeing as that's how wet it is. Oh, it's been put dead by the attack, they've said. Chase Tia Tia's arm goes dead before he grounds the ball, and that is going to be no try, ladies and gentlemen. So a big one there. The Force, they thought that they were within the 7. It is not the case anymore. They'll be back to the 12 away. Could have been the second try of the match for Chase Tia Tia as well. He's frustrated, but they did slow it down and he was into touch. It's going to be now a 22 dropout for the Fijians. So his arm's gone dead. The ball was grounded, but it was just after that first initial arm had gone into touch. Now, 22 dropout. Armstrong Ravula just making sure all the players are behind him before he does a drop kick this one. He's gone with the low option. It's ended up smacking a Western Force player square in the mush, and it's given it back to the Fijian Drua. The assist is about to go to a Western Force head. Lamani. Eros to the right-hand side. Let's run from Osefo Masi. Ball is still there. Looked like Lamani was considering the left-hand side, but instead goes to the long side of the field to the right. Tackle made on Ilya Thanakai-Vata. Lamani manages to milk that penalty advantage. Santiago Medrano penalised for not rolling. They're going for the cross kick nicely. Worked out to Ravatamanda, but he puts it down. And will now be going back for the original penalty. Just talking about that pinpoint kicking of Isaiah Armstrong Ravula. He's been very impressive since getting that opportunity at the start of the season. There is time off again. And that is just a check on Santiago Medrano. Showing the replay here. He was trying to get out of that breakdown, to be fair to him, but unfortunately, just was wedged in by his leg. Doesn't look like he's too flash at the moment either, Santiago Medrano. They may decide to take him off the field. Yeah, it looks like he's getting an HIA. He doesn't want to go off, though. And to his defence, in this case for Santiago Medrano, I believe what's happened there is a language barrier. Because that almost looked like he was answering the HIA initial questions and he kind of answered them and then they said, we're going to take you off. And he kind of looked like he gave the answer of like, what was I supposed to say? Like, I don't know how to say it. So they're going to take him off for an HIA. He might be completely fine, but they're going to have to make that change for now because he couldn't work out what English to use to say he was fine. Hello, Amish bro. Says Michelle, of course, that could all be wrong if he just ends up going off and they find out that he fails his HIA. But yeah, he looked like he had his wits about him. For Santiago Medrano, that ball's thrown in. It could almost be the advantage, yes it is, against the Western Force for throwing the man across. That was Sam Carter, who has jumped across there. Right now, 27 minutes remaining in this contest. And mate, just got back from a trip. Did you get to see Bulls versus Leinster at the RDS? Was it one-sided? Was it as one-sided as the score says? I mean, first half was close. Bulls actually leading the first half. I think it was 14 points to 12 or 14 points to 13 or something like that. But then second half happened and Leinster just dominated. Seemed like the Bulls weren't quite able to find their momentum. They almost scored, but then one of their players kicked a man on the ground, so they got that try taken away. But yeah, it was a much better performance from Leinster than we saw from the Vodacom Bulls. And this looks like, once again, another penalty attempt is going to be taken by Armstrong Ravula, who is currently sitting with a 4 from 5 accuracy of 80% for the first half in this contest. Looking to extend that lead a little bit more and give them that 2 converted try buffer. Oh, it is not going to be the easiest kick for Armstrong Ravula. From 40 plus meters out, but tell you what, he's nailed it. Straight down the middle again. Making the score now 28 points to 13 in favour of the Fijian Drua. There's still plenty of time remaining in this contest. They want to keep on adding the points when they are available for the Fijian Drua. They still need 2 more tries to get themselves the bonus point here, which would, of course, give them the full 5 available from this game rather than just the 4. Ben Donaldson has kicked that one downfield, nicely taken by Antonio Wanga inside of the 22. Manages to get the offload away to Osefo Masi, and Sam Whitelock back in either the 4 or 19. Black jersey, yes or no? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because he was asked to come back out of retirement by Razor, by the sounds of it. That is what the rumours are saying anyway. But, you know, whether or not he does or not is a different story. But a push and shove there. Hamish Stewart, not too happy. Oh, serious injury for Blue. That sounds like Antonio Wanga is the player who has stayed down, and he does not look too flash at all. Some sort of left leg injury. Hamish Ray, how's my uncle and auntie? Please send my message too. I miss you both. And Hamish bro, I request to please at one stream your auntie, uncle and auntie share it on stream if possible. Says Michelle, they're both doing very well. Dad's golfing today. Mum's watching some of the rugby as well, I believe. And as I go the drawer, says Manini. Hopefully I've said that correctly. I do apologise. I have got that slightly wrong. Yeah, this doesn't look too good for Antonio Wanga. The thing is, if they can't get him up, right, they're going to have to use one of those carts, the stretchers. I don't think they've got the off-road tyres required to drive onto the field with how it is currently sitting. It looks like he just kind of fell awkwardly. It was just in the way that he fell. So Kitioni Salawa, he is going to be on the field. I should also mention that Taveta Ikanaveri red card, I believe, has almost come to a close. He's going to be able to limp his way off. But yeah, if you were the guy who was in charge of taking that little card out, you'd almost have to say, look, mate, I need some better tyres or else I'm just going to get bogged out there. Now line out, Zaril Togiotama has made his way onto the field to take these line-out throws for the Drua. Now looking to roll this one forward at maul time. Being told to use it once. There is the advantage in favour of the Fijian Drua. Lamani goes across to Armstrong Ravula. Once again goes with the cross kick. This time it's lined up by Tia Tia. They played a longer advantage. The Drua were almost in for a chance of a try. But they will go back. Ken at the back was advancing, they have said there. So it is offside. Okay. That's an interesting one from the referee there. Because Nick White's gone up to him and said about something else. And the ref said, I have my arms out, so that's the decision that was made. Okay, so the referee has just said that he got the call wrong. He didn't see it for something that was happening because the assistant referees made the initial on-field call. And Nick White said, can you please talk to your ARs about it? And the referee said yes. So in other words, they made the wrong decision, but they're just going to go with it. You want to have more of a, I guess, firm grasp on the game as the referee there, rather than being like to one of the players. Yes, you can ask the questions, but if every time he comes up to you, you say, oh, yes, we made a little mistake there again, like that's about the third time we've seen that now for Ruben Keane. Now Armstrong Ravula will be lining up this kick. This is to extend the lead even more than it already is. Looks like he's got the distance again, and he's got the accuracy. 31 points to 13 in favour of the Fijian draw. I'm really happy. The New Zealand Cricket Match Series now telecasting at India. Thanks for Sony Pictures Networks being live television telecast at New Zealand home series games. Says Vishal. I was going to go, oh bloody hell, Nick. Says Rays, although he's got a point in a way. Like, if the referee is being like constantly, sorry, we didn't see that, or like I'll keep an eye out for it now because like I missed it initially, like that makes the players, I guess, more likely to talk to you more because then they think that could lead to them getting the penalty. Big run forward from Te Ewaru Threkiravita, recently making his way onto the park. I believe that would have been for Vofi. And anyone like the Brumbies versus Reds later. Brumbies have won the last 2 versus the Reds and the last 3 overall. I think the Brumbies will go all right in the game. On the podcast, I actually predicted the Brumbies to win, although I will also say I predicted that the Crusaders would lose and I predicted that the Rebels would lose. So you can't really trust me. Armstrong Ravola, gone with the cross kick, doesn't sit up for Zeril Togiotami. He was hoping for the bounce on the ball, but instead he got the slide. And thanks so much, don't know what I do without you doing these streams. God bless you and your family. Happy Easter to you and your family, says Dennis. Right back at you, mate. Of course, we've got plenty more of these streams today. We've got another 3 Super Rugby contests that we are covering back to back to back. And then alongside that, we are also going to be covering 2 games of the URC taking place at 2 a.m. and 6:15 a.m. So we've got about a 28-hour day ahead of us. And 19 looking strong out there. Try men left and right. Yeah, Te Ewaru Threkiravita. He's a big boy. And he's hard to put down. Just bumped off Nick White as well. The big shot coming in. I thought you knew a bit about rugby, lol. Says Dennis. Not predictions-wise. Like, I could tell you every player that's playing in that game, but I could not tell you who is going to win it. I know that Jordan Batai and Hunter Paisami coming back from injury. I actually felt like those two returning at the same time may hurt the Reds a little bit, and the Brumbies coming off a big win up against Moana Pacifica, 60 points to 21. They've got the advantage, I think, in terms of their last performance, definitely because the Reds did lose to the Western Force last week in Perth. But, yeah, in terms of who's going to win, I have no idea. And Force just too undisciplined, says DJ Shack. And I've given away a few silly penalties along the way, which has led to Fijian Drua just being able to tick over 3 points after 3 points. I believe they've got about maybe 12 or 15 points of their score just from the penalties. Of course, Armstrong Ravola, been kicking extremely well today. I think he's sitting now 5 from 6 or 6 from 7, something along those lines. Only missing the 1. Another scrum here. The Force have given away 11 penalties. And that has really hurt them. Eliza Drua Sisi charging forward. Hurricanes are probably the obvious favourites this year. Who do you think their main competitor is to challenge them for the title? I do still feel like it is the Chiefs. To be honest, I feel like, yes, they've had a couple rough games along the way, but I still think that they are a strong side. Blues, if they can sort their discipline out, will be a contender because they have got a side that is stacked on paper. But on that same paper normally reads penalties conceded 12. And that's normally the thing that hurts them. But they're still going very well. And honestly, Crusaders and the Chiefs, says Razor Robinson there. Now I'm going to be kicking this one towards the touchline there, Ben Donaldson. And it hasn't found touch. Armstrong Ravola goes across to Celestino Ravatamanda. Ball across to Vofi, who has stayed on the field. So I believe it was actually Tonio Wanga. Went off for Salawa, but then they also, I think, made the other change of Turika Davita on for Ratu Rotui Solia. Another big shot coming in. And thanks for the live commentary, says Save. No worries at all, mate. Do appreciate you being here. We've got plenty more Super Rugby coming up next week. We are, of course, going to be covering more of the Super Rugby competition. One is knocked down. I think the Fijian Drua actually have a rest next week. Oh, no, sorry. They have got the Rebels, and then I think they've got their rest week after that. How many are they choke in the finals? And also, can you tell me who plays in that stadium where Ireland plays South Africa later in the year? Somewhere, or someone said at the clinic today, the Bulls play there. So that is Loftus Versfeld. So yeah, that is where they're playing one of the game, and I think the other's in Cape Town, so they'll be playing at Cape Town Stadium, which is the Stormers' home ground. About 18 minutes remaining now. Some deep breaths being taken by Ben Donaldson. We have to see more towards the end to really count the Crusaders as title contenders. So here's Beds ablaze. Players but walking wounded at the moment out there on the field. Position is 61% in favour of the Fijian Drua, 56% territory in their favour too. The time of the opposition, 22, surprisingly, is way more in favour of the Western Force. Armstrong Ravula goes to Te Iwaru Thrika de Vita, breaks through that tackle attempt of Carlo Tazzano. A much more committed and professional performance by the Drua so far. There's DJ Shack. Another step, drop ball. Western Force have got themselves the advantage. I should mention Kuravuli. He has made his way onto the field. Poor Frank Lamani. Kicked him behind, was attempted by Hamish Stewart. And they'll go back for the original knock on. How many minutes left? Still another 17 minutes left in this one. It looks like there's some good depth with fullbacks like Che Fiaki and Ruben Love so far. Yeah, I agree. I think that fullback is one of those positions that is the most up for grabs when it comes to the All Blacks, but it's probably one of those positions that they've got the most options in certain aspects at the moment. Like you've got Ruben Love, you've got Jacob Ratamai Tavuki Nepkins, you've got Sean Stevenson, you've got, like you mentioned, Che Fiaki, also someone who hasn't done too badly is Zahn Sullivan. Of course, he's injured at the moment. That might hurt him a little bit, but in terms of a kicking 15, he is a decent option there. And also, we have got, I think people are underestimating the Crusaders. I'm very confident they're still Crusaders. There's Razor. Fiaki isn't close to New Zealand selection. Stevenson, Geordie, Bowden, Havili. I love Sullivan all before him. Says Razor. I ain't saying they ain't, but they have mounted the climb first, so let's see if they can. Says Pads ablaze. Yeah, they're in an uncertain territory at the moment for the Crusaders. Never has a Super Rugby champion lost their first 5 games, and never have the Crusaders lost more than 4 games. In fact, more than 3 games in a row. So they've made history this season. Can they make history and be the biggest comeback team of 2024 as well? A big run forward from Tim Anstey. Finds a Liliawasa on a cross. Left-hand side here, Hamish Stewart. Donaldson, skip pass, another error from the Western Force. They will go back for the original penalty, though, in their favour. Tackled the 13. So the referee's mic is in a plastic bag and it has just fallen out the back of his shirt. Ruben Keane has just said, can I please have my microphone reset? So I would assume at some stage soon there'll be some people going on the field try and sort that out for him. And Johnny McNichol to end up captaining the Crusaders to the Super Rugby Championship and raise a year. There's some excellent players you've named there. Says John. But yeah, like it depends on what Razor likes as well. We've got to remember that was a rough throw from the Western Force. We've got to remember he's a Crusaders man, Scott Robinson. If he feels that Che Fiaki, from what he's seen in terms of the work rate of the youngster off the field, and he feels like he would be the best fit for his maybe Crusaders more dominant All Black side, then maybe Fiaki is top of the list, seeing as Will Jordan is unavailable. Like, you just never know what Razor is going to be deciding. Is he going to be picking players purely off form? Or is he going to be picking players that have been playing well, but also that he knows personally can do well? That's why I think someone like a Cullen Grace might be in for a decent chance of getting an All Blacks call-up this year, mainly because of the fact that he is there at the Crusaders, where Razor has seen him develop, and he'll also see what he's doing this year and go, maybe he's a decent option. And Donaldson has taken some big hits this game, He certainly has. And have the Drua even been able to send a player on to replace a Canaveria? So who? So it is the real Togi Otama who is on the field at the moment. But yeah, they've been able to replace him with 14 minutes remaining now in this contest between these two sides. The next game that we are covering, ladies and gentlemen, will be starting at 4:30. That is the game taking place between Moana Pacifica and the Blues. That's going to be knocked on by the Western Force. Every line out at the moment just seems to be a waiting game before the Fijian Drua managed to take that ball back, and now they've given away a penalty in the breakdown as well. Razor could put Ethan Blackadder at 15 for all we would know. Well, maybe not 15, but he could put him in the squad, and everyone would go, why? We haven't seen anything from him yet. And Scott Robinson would say, I've seen him. You know, he's a workhorse, and maybe he fits the mould of what they want to have in that All Black side. Like, no one really knows what to expect, because Ian Foster, a majority of his selections throughout his tenure were based off players who have played well in the past and the occasional form player being thrown in there. We don't know what Razor's plan is. It's now going to be the line out for the Fijian Drua, just on the halfway line. Chance to throw this one in. Santiago Medrano was yelling at the referee. Ruben Keane pretty much said, stop yelling at me, I'm going to reset it. This game seems like it hasn't been well controlled, but that is because of, like I mentioned earlier on, Nick White saying that the referee was making mistakes and the referee agreeing. That is something that you can't really afford to do as a referee, or else then you allow the players into the game more when it comes to the officiating. Zarel Togiotama had to come on because they needed a hooker. When Ikanaveri sent off penalty time elapsed, Kitione Salawa was allowed to come back on, says DJ Shack. And also Blackadder will be in the ABs, I'm sure of it, says Razor Robinson, although I don't think he will be if he hasn't got any minutes under his belt beforehand. Just because I feel like they'll want to give him some sort of game time before chucking him back in the deep end. So maybe November internationals is when we see him rather than July. I feel like these wet games will always benefit the Drua. Drua boys many times grew up playing in these conditions in the village. There's Fijian beauty, like I mentioned. They love being able to play in the wet and being able to score tries into a puddle is something, we saw for sure that was enjoyed by Ravatamanda. Now a bit of space opening up. Kitione Salawa, a lot of pressure on him in the breakdown, but it's still there for the Drua. Armstrong Ravula pops it up to Zaril Togiotama. Just a bit of silly stuff. I planted this pivot hedge 35 years ago around the perimeter of that pitch at the RDS. So when the games go on there, I get kind of cheesed off when fans jump on it. Says Dennis, that's probably fair enough if you've planted the bush all that time ago. Do you trim it as well? I guess the groundskeeper would do the trimming of it now. That's going to be the penalty. And he'll play a couple games for Canterbury and cut the mustard there. See, a couple games I don't think is enough though. Because as much as Scott Robinson will know Ethan Blackadder, he'll also know that he needs to give him a few games under his belt to make sure that he is fit and that he's not going to re-injure himself. Because he only played, 5 games of the NPC last year before he ended up with another injury or something like that. So they have to be very careful with how quickly they throw him back into the deep end. But then number 6, I think it's up for grabs. At the moment, I think that there's a few players stepping up in the 7 and the 8 jerseys, but I don't know whether number 6 is so solidified at this point. I don't think Akira Ioane is the number 8 option for the All Blacks at the moment. I think that's Sama Penifino. I'd probably give him the nod over Akira Ioane, but then I also think based off current form, maybe there's another guy that could go into that 6 jersey even better. And Nick White has a very animated exchange with Ruben Keane. Says DJ Shack. Now that's going to be slapped back by the Western Force. They have at least retained that line out, but the passing, I'm not sure what the go is here, but it seems to be that they keep on going with the bounce passes, and that is not working because the ball's not bouncing. So far, White has been in King's ear. Says DJ Shack, and also yet Blackadder in New Zealand, or is New Zealand's Manu Tuolangi, sadly. Says Razor Robinson. Yeah, a player with so much potential, but sadly, just injury, well, not so much even injury prone, just injury at the most unfortunate times for him. I don't think Keta is a 6 or an 8 at the moment. Says Razor. Well done, the Drua should move up now. Yeah, there isn't much time left in this contest, so I don't believe the Western Force have got a chance of coming back. It's more of the question of can the Fijian Drua extend their lead, increase their points differential, and also alongside that possibly get themselves a bonus point if they can score 2 quick tries in a row here. The ball has been fed in by the Drua. Apisalome Vote behind to Eliza Drua Sisi. Ball is there again for the Drua. Bit of a handling error. And it is a knock on now. So it's starting to get a little bit more scrappy as we get near the end of this game in terms of players dropping the possession. Well done, the Drua. I believe that they will move up to 7th on the table, the Fijian Drua here. Of course, we've got to remember the Rebels got themselves the win over the Waratahs yesterday. So they move up to 14, which puts them into 6th. But for now, the Drua will move up to 7th. If they can get a couple more quick-fire tries here, they will also overtake the Rebels and move up to 6th place. But there are still a lot of games remaining in this round, including Moana Pacifica. They have got their game up against the Blues. They are the only side outside of the top 8 who can get ahead of the Fijian Drua, whereas the Highlanders, they can still get themselves up a little bit higher if they are able to win up against the Hurricanes. And while I'm hoping the Drua will win, there's 7 there. Well, they certainly should at the moment. I've probably said this already. If you did, what games are you doing later on tomorrow? So we have still got, of course, the 3 more games of Super Rugby back-to-back today. But then the 2 a.m. game between the Sharks and Edinburgh, we are covering on the channel. And then also the game taking place between the Stormers and Ulster. That is the 6:30 p.m. game. Or sorry, 6:30 a.m. game New Zealand time, which I think is about 6:30. Well, you well done, Draw. Number 6 now on the table standings. Or number 7 it would be. Charged down. Oh, was Sam Carter held back there? I think they're going to check this one. Yeah, I always root for the Draw, but Western Force are one of my favourite Aussie sides, says Razor Robinson. Hello. I hope you are doing well. Says Beds Ablaze. Okay, they've said that there's no obvious foul play, so it's a 22 dropout. What time is the next game you live for? It will be starting at 4:30. I reckon the iBeds are right about to start work though. Hope you are well. Now 8 minutes remaining, low drop kick there. Not even realised it was coming there for the Western Force, and he's actually ended up with the ball there. Tim Anstey. And good luck with that, says Beds Ablaze. On the halfway line, finds Aleliawasa, fires it out wide. Haven't seen a huge amount of Tiatia ever since he had that no try. I'm doing well, says a Paddy. And there as well. They've got the advantage now for the Western Force. Rolling into the halfback, Ben Donaldson going for the cross kick. It's a bit too predictable at the moment for the Western Force. Every time they get the penalty advantage, they just go wide. Try a cross kick, and it is marked by the Fijian Drua. I think Yomish better put the alarm on, says Dennis. Although for us, we are staying up, I believe, right through till the end of that Stormers versus Edinburgh, or sorry, Stormers versus Ulster game. So we are going to be up for another 16 hours, 16, 17 hours, I think it is, somewhere around there. And I thank you. It's Hospo, so like hoping no one is too mean. 7 minutes left on the clock. Could have one of those umbrella hats, which I am not embarrassed. Well, I am embarrassed to say it, but I actually do own one of those, and they are quite handy, to be fair. I haven't worn one out in the rain yet because I don't want to get punched in the face. But maybe if I was like at somewhere where it was raining and no one would see me, I would put one of those hats on. I'll probably miss the first half of the live stream. I have to go to family's house and water their gardens. So yeah, it's bad as a blaze. Hopefully it all goes well. I haven't done any gardening in a very long time. I think the last time I did some weeding was at someone else's house and it wasn't my garden. Which explains why it was someone else's house. 6 minutes remaining now. The advantage in favour of the Western Force, who are looking to try and get back into this contest enough to give themselves a bonus point. Now, 2 tries would do that for them. Where's George? He is working currently. I think he's been working about 60 or 70 hours for the last 3 or so weeks. So he has been extremely busy, close to the line. Sam Spink doesn't manage to get through. It was also his birthday yesterday. Fun fact for George, and he worked the whole day for about 15 hours. That is going back for the advantage. I've got the 5 minutes remaining on the clock now. Always offside against the Fijian Drua. So that is one thing that they'll take out of this game, is their discipline still hasn't quite been where it needs to be. They have done a lot well in this game. Looks like the rain has actually stopped as well for the second half, which is quite a nice change. A lot of people have got their umbrellas down. Happy birthday, Georgie. Says Beds Ablaze. And hopefully tonight's game isn't so predictable, says Jason Hamilton. So which game are you saying was predictable, Jason? You're saying that the Crusaders-Chiefs game was predictable, or this one here between these two sides? Now rolling forward. Advantage in favour of the Western Force. I've been told to use it once. Now Mega Cross finds Liliwasa. Donaldson going off to Bailey Kuenzel, who breaks through one. This one, says Jason Hamilton. Yeah, unfortunately the rain, like at the start of the game, I thought that it may make it a little bit more even, but there's certainly been a side that have played better throughout this game. Can't watch any game on TV because of eyes. I see the only way to find out about rugby for the next few months. P.S. sorry for writing, etc. I'm in keys by Phil. Says to this, there's no worries, and it is greatly appreciated that you can come onto the live streams and you find a way of still being able to enjoy the rugby. Only a couple metres out finds Liliwasa, feeding it back across for the Western Force. They've been told to get their hands out of it. Hang on. The referee wants to check this. I got hands on it first. There's Ruben Keane, so it is going to go back for the penalty in favour of the Western Force again. This is a lot of infringements against the Fijian Drua. I believe the count is probably up to about 13 penalties now. Getting into Blues numbers. 3.5 minutes remaining in this contest. The Drua just trying to throw absolutely everything at their opposition. How many minutes left? 3.5. Back across, low tackle attempted by Iliathana Kaivata. Chops the knee out from underneath the Force player. Carlo Tazzano gets close. Another penalty. Goes the way of the Western Force. Double blow of the whistle here. They're looking for the captain. Looks like the Fijian Drua are actually arguing amongst themselves here. I think Upper Salome Vota was getting ready to punch someone. Yeah, he's still going Upper Salome Vota. And Armstrong Ravul is trying to tell him, look, mate, yes, it's a penalty, but calm down. Can't afford to fight each other here. You're going to bag a couple of hours sleep and get back up for the Canes. 2 a.m. kickoff here. See you soon, mate. Says Razor Robinson, so we will see you later on. Of course, the next game, for anyone wondering, is the matchup between the Blues and Moana Pacifica. That is kicking off at 4:35 p.m. New Zealand time, which is only 32 minutes away. And we are going to be live covering that game as well. Last 5 penalties conceded have all been conceded by the Fijian Drua, all within the last kind of 8 or so minutes of this game. We're seeing, that's 18 penalties against the Fijian Drua, just for them to have 2 yellow cards for discipline in terms of those high shots. It's quite impressive, I would have to argue. And any more times that they give away a penalty, they will certainly have to go to the bin here. Another one going down in the front row, which only leaves a minute left on the clock now. Just over a minute left. Right, I'm off. I better go do this stuff before I forget to. Says Pants and Blaze, have fun water in the gardens. Why can't you show the actual live game at the same time? Says Esimasi. It is a good question, and it is one that we get quite a bit. Pretty much Sansa, they have got the licenses that they, I guess, sell to broadcasters such as Sky, such as Super Sports, such as Stan. Pretty much they pay millions of dollars to be able to broadcast the games. So because we haven't paid millions of dollars, it means that we are unable to show any match footage or audio. We are allowed to do this kind of commentary, talking about the game. That is another knock on that time from Sam Spink. As the Drua jump on it, they will now have themselves the scrum feed. But yeah, if we were to show any match footage or audio, we get copyright struck, which means we aren't able to stream on YouTube for 90 days. We would also possibly get sued by Sansa, and that could be a very hefty lawsuit for showing match footage that we haven't got the rights to be able to show. But yeah, we are allowed to do this style of commentary, and it's normally our way of being able to keep people informed of what's happening in the contest, just without being able to show it. The highlights, though, for the games will be up on the Super Rugby YouTube channel straight after the game is finished. So I highly recommend checking out that for the post-match highlights. But during the game, yeah, like, because we haven't paid for the subscription paid for the broadcasting fee, we aren't able to show it. Hopefully that makes sense. My apology for asking. No, it's all good. Like, it's one of those ones that we do get asked a lot because it does seem like a weird concept in a way. Like, we are commentating a game that you guys can't see. Normally commentary, you're at least able to see the game, but instead you see my face, which is a bit weird of a combo. But that ball has been kicked dead by the Fijian Drua, and that will be the end of the contest now, ladies and gentlemen. 31 points to 13, the win for the Fijian Drua. Vanaka says, it's a must, no worries at all. We also cover the Fijian Sevens as well, if that is something you are curious about. And it's going to be happening next week. Are you going to watch Ghostbusters Frozen Empire at the movies? Nah, probably not. I think I've watched the first Ghostbusters. I don't think I've seen the second one, though. So I've got a bit of catching up to do. But the Drua, they'll be more than happy with this performance. Definitely in such a wet environment of a game. It was always going to be tricky to find momentum, but they managed to walk away with a decent points differential and a good win up against the Western Force. But nonetheless, the next game that we are covering, ladies and gentlemen, will be in 29 minutes' time. That is the matchup between the Blues and Moana Pacifica, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. But I do thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.